Hi. Sometime after 4 p.m. on December 6, 1989, Mark Lepine arrived at the building housing the École Polytechnique, an engineering school affiliated with the University of Montreal. He was armed with a semi-automatic rifle and a hunting knife. He had purchased the Sturm Ruger brand rifle Mini 1-4 model on November 21, 1989, in a Checkmate sports store in Montreal, telling the clerk he was going to use it to hunt small game. Lepine was familiar with the layout of the building, since he had been in and around the École Polytechnique at least 7 times in the weeks leading up to the event. Lepine sat for a time in the office of the registrar on the second floor. He was seen rummaging through a plastic bag and did not speak to anyone, even when a staff member asked if she could help him. He left the office and was subsequently seen in other parts of the building before entering a second-floor mechanical engineering class of about 60 students at about 5 p.m. After approaching the student giving a presentation, he asked everyone to stop everything and ordered the women and men to opposite sides of the classroom. No one moved at first, believing it to be a joke, until he fired a shot into the ceiling. Lepine then separated the 9 women from the approximately 50 men and ordered the men to leave. Speaking in French, he asked the remaining women whether they knew why they were there, and when one student replied no, he answered, "I am fighting feminism." One of the students, Nathalie Provost, said, "Look, we are just women studying engineering, not necessarily feminists, ready to march on the streets to shout, 'We are against men.' Just students intent on leading a normal life." Lepine responded that, "You are women, you are going to be engineers, you're all a bunch of feminists. I hate feminists." He then opened fire on the students, from left to right, killing 6 and wounding 3 others, including Provost. Before leaving the room, he wrote the word "shit" twice on a student project. Lepine continued into the second-floor corridor and wounded 3 students before entering another room where he twice attempted to shoot a female student. His weapon failed to fire, so he entered the emergency staircase, where he was seen reloading his gun. He returned to the room he had just left, but the students had locked the door. Lepine failed to unlock it with 3 shots fired into the door. Moving along the corridor, he shot at others, wounding 1, before moving towards the financial services office, where he shot and killed a woman through the window of the door she had just locked. He next went down to the first-floor cafeteria, in which about 100 people were gathered. The crowd scattered after he shot a woman standing near the kitchens and wounded another student. Entering an unlocked storage area at the end of the cafeteria, Lepine shot and killed 2 more women hiding there. He told a male and female student to come out from under a table. They complied and were not shot. Lepine then walked up an escalator to the 3rd floor, where he shot and wounded 1 female and 2 male students in the corridor. He entered another classroom and told the 3 students giving a presentation to get out, shooting and wounding Maurice Leclerc, who was standing on the low platform at the front of the classroom. He fired on students in the front row and then killed 2 women who were trying to escape the room, while other students dove under their desks. Lapine moved towards some of the female students, wounding 3 of them and killing another. He changed the magazine in his weapon and moved to the front of the class, shooting in all directions. At this point, the wounded Leclerc asked for help, and after unsheathing his hunting knife, Lapine stabbed her 3 times, killing her. He took off his cap, wrapped his coat around his rifle, exclaimed, "Ah shit," and then committed suicide by shooting himself in the head, 20 minutes after having begun his attack. About 60 unfired cartridges remained in the boxes he carried with him. He had killed 14 women in total, 12 engineering students, 1 nursing student, and 1 employee of the university. He had injured 14 other people, including 4 men. After briefing reporters outside, Montreal Police Director of Public Relations Pierre Leclerc entered the building and found his daughter Maurice's stabbed body. The Quebec and Montreal governments declared 3 days of mourning. A joint funeral for 9 of the women was held at Notre Dame Basilica on December 11, 1989, and was attended by Governor General Jean Sauve, Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, Quebec Premier Robert Bourassa, and Montreal Mayor Jean Doré, along with thousands of other mourners. Marc Lepine's inside jacket pocket contained a suicide letter and 2 letters to friends, all dated the day of the massacre. Some details from the suicide letter were revealed by the police 2 days after the event, but the full text was not disclosed. The media brought an unsuccessful access to information case to compel the police to release the suicide letter. A year after the attacks, Lepine's 3-page statement was leaked to journalist and feminist Francine Pelletier. It contained a list of 19 Quebec women whom Lepine apparently wished to kill because he considered them feminists. The list included Pelletier herself, as well as a union leader, a politician, a TV personality, and 6 police officers who had come to Lepine's attention as they were on a volleyball team together. The letter, without the list of women, was subsequently published in the newspaper La Presse, where Pelletier was a columnist at the time. Lepine wrote that he considered himself rational and that he blamed feminists for ruining his life. He outlined his reasons for the attack, including his anger toward feminists for seeking social changes that retained the advantages of being women while trying to grab those of the men. He also mentioned Denise Lortie, a Canadian Forces corporal who killed 3 government employees and wounded 13 others in an arms attack on the National Assembly of Quebec on May 7, 1984. Male survivors of the massacre have been subjected to criticism for not intervening to stop Lepine. In an interview immediately after the event, a reporter asked one of the men why they abandoned the women when it was clear that Lepine's targets were women. René Yalbert, the sergeant-at-arms who persuaded Denise Lortie to surrender during his 1984 attack, said that someone should have intervened, at least to distract Lepine, but acknowledged that ordinary citizens cannot be expected to react heroically in the midst of terror. Newspaper columnist Mark Stein suggested that male inaction during the massacre illustrated a culture of passivity prevalent among men in Canada, which enabled Lepine's shooting spree. The defining image of contemporary Canadian maleness is not Lepine, but the professors and the men in that classroom who, ordered to leave by the lone gunman, meekly did so and abandoned their female classmates to their fate, an act of abdication that would have been unthinkable in almost any other culture throughout human history. The men stood outside in the corridor, and even as they heard the first shots, they did nothing. And when it was over and Lepine walked out of the room and past them, they still did nothing.